All right, everybody, and welcome into the Wagers on Campus podcast. We are talking college football week 16, better known as Army Navy weekends. Hello, everyone. Really appreciate you checking us out and giving us a listen. This is the Wagers on Campus college football podcast. I am your host, Alex Mayer, and I am here with Xander. It is a two-man show yet again, as we have another week without our fallen soldier, Nate, on the podcast. So it is the two-man crew coming in hot. Xander, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you, Alex. Always a great introduction. Just kind of limped me in there. So appreciate you really building me up.
Xander is the founder and head honcho of this podcast. As you can hear, he needs that little ego boost and validation.
Okay, pal.
So
Okay.
whenever you see the tweets on X, whenever you see the graphics on X, Xander is the one
Or the
behind it all.
graphic tweets.
Or the graphic tweets. Well said. But yeah, it's good to be with you, my friend. We're going to talk Army Navy this week. We are going to talk about some of the bowl games being played between now and the next time that we record. And then, of course, we'll talk about some college football playoff stuff. But as the founder and leader of this podcast, where do you want to kick things off?
Well, I actually had something that I didn't write down because I wanted to get your live reaction on it. But I was just thinking about it. You know, us white guys, this happens to us more often than not.
Jeez.
Well, no, this is
Oh
a
my.
tale of uncoordination and goofiness. That's why I say that. What is your move when you see a buddy or just a new person? You extend the hand. So I guess this wouldn't be a professional matter. So maybe just like at the bar, you extend the hand. He extends the hand. One of you goes fist bump. The other one goes handshake. Are you a move your hand weirdly, try to go to a fist bump? Or do you just go in with the hand no matter what and either grab their fist or or hopefully they change?
Yeah, I feel like I am the person going in for the handshake where someone else is doing the fist bump. So I'm just trying to react to that in my imagination. Yeah, I think I'm probably grabbing their fist in a warm, embracing manner.
Like
Something like
a
that.
like a drive shaft on like a car.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's always awkward whenever that happens. Why do you bring it up?
I don't know. I've just seen it happen a couple times since Thanksgiving, and it's always a good chuckle because it's usually just like a showdown of greeting, and there's nothing worse than getting caught in between. It's kind of like when you step to move out of a direction with the hands, though. Like you both step.
Yeah, you both step to the right to get out of each other's way.
Yeah, exactly.
Making things worse. Yeah, yeah, it's brutal. How about you? What would you do?
I'm the same way. Except I maybe go a little more forcefully. I'll grab that fist, just give it a
Yeah,
good shake. Like,
yeah.
hey,
Hey,
how are you
pal.
doing, brother?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe call it the Midwest two step. We'll patent that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just curious what your thoughts would be. And you get all your Christmas shopping done yet, or you a late bird like me?
Uh, hard to answer the question accurately. Because Nikki pretty much takes care of it. She's very good. My wife just takes care of all the Christmas shopping. So yeah, not really too involved outside of a couple gifts that I needed to get for a few certain people that don't require Nikki, and have gotten that taken care of.
Well, that's good. Way ahead of the game.
Yeah, how about you?
I'll be like sprinkled throughout, and then I'll definitely be at like Target on December 23rd, just like picking up last minute things that maybe I forgot and obviously can't get shipped in time. But yeah, that's always a stressful time of year, even though it shouldn't be. when we don't have the kids to fully spoil yet. So it's just
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
Yeah, I gotta give props to my wife on all that. If I had to do all of the shopping like on my own, I'd probably be scrambling right now if I'm just being honest with myself and you. So look, I'm a dude who loves sports. Do you really expect me to be on top of my Christmas shopping? Come on.
I will say, I mean, you are a great gift giver in the sense of creativeness. When you got a good friend, a recurring guest on the show, Nick, a actual bet slip from Vegas for a future on his favorite team. That's a great gift.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I heard it on Wager Talk when I was listening to an episode, and one of the guys gets his friend a ticket on the Maple Leafs every year to win the Stanley Cup. So it's a loser every year, just as the Lions would be. But hey, maybe this is the year that it's broken.
It would be hilarious if you just like got a ticket and like the game already happened in while you were visiting Vegas. It was just like a losing slip that you wanted to. Well, we would have paid this much if you would have.
Well, my fantasy football team name is and all year it's been dropped by Reynolds. Just a
Oh,
direct shot at Nick.
oh man, that's brutal.
Well, his
Please,
his name to be fair was Bostic's hands for about 3 years running.
okay.
When Brandon Bostic botched the onside kick for the Packers against the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game. So I feel like I feel like I'm owed this one.
You're one of those. You guys are one of those leagues. You know, you'll grow up one day. You guys are just like alternating team names. We've got a bunch of storied franchises in our league that logos and everything.
Sure. Yeah, it's like the Dallas Cowboys. They're not changing their name every year.
Yeah,
That's you guys.
exactly.
All right. So week 15 bets and regrets. Mayor 3-3 last week. Downing unit. My lock lost. Thank you, Texas. Man, what a scumbag team. Uh, and then Xander 4-4. You did hit your lock. You were up a little more than a half unit. Your lock was
Oregon.
Oregon. Yes, Oregon minus the points against Penn State. So that cashed. So a 500 week, really across the board from you and I. Maction. Wait, before I jump into Maction, bet regrets from last week for myself. Let me think. Well, um, no, no, I really can't say. I really can't say I do. I guess UNLV was a bad bet in hindsight. Boise State dominated that game from start to finish, but the other two losers, the under in the Louisiana Lafayette game, or was that it was the Western
Yeah,
Kentucky game? Yeah, the under in that game got
Jacksonville
kind
State.
of backdoored at the end. Yeah, Jacksonville State. Thank you. So don't really regret that one. And then Texas, of course, against Georgia. No, I don't regret that bet. Texas is just ass, but Texas was clearly the better team. Um, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing how they just found a way to like not pull away and then eventually lose. Like just very, very weird, bizarre stuff. But no, I don't regret the bet. How about
Yeah.
you?
Oh, that I mean, they killed the what could possibly go wrong. They were the only loser of the five legs. Texas money line, not even spread.
Yeah.
And I will say I have one regret for the entire podcast, and that's regretting you talking us out. Um, we could have brought Oregon over the line, and that would have been a rocking chair at plus money. And we switched it to the under in the Clemson SMU game that ended up losing with 20 seconds to go. And we went that's how we go 5 of 6 on the teaser. That's my bet regret. We had the 6 locked in. We changed it last second. I don't like Oregon. Something weird about Penn State.
Man.
And the weird thing is if we would have taken Penn State, they also would have hit at plus 10. So either way we picked in that game would have been a hit. So if we went with your gut, something about Penn State, they lost by 8. So
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, dude. We just got to retire from the teasers this year. We suck.
It's crazy. 20 seconds to go. We had it all 5 legs. Were pretty easy, to be honest,
Yeah.
going into that. And the last one, at least we had a chance because it was 21-7 into the first quarter. I'm like, oh, sweet. Just blown out of the fucking water.
Yeah.
Probably should have hedged it on my end, but plus 500. Just gotta let it ride.
Sure. Um, and then yeah, man. I mean, Arizona State versus Iowa State. You and I liked the over pretty much from the get go, and that was
Yeah.
so easy. Um,
Oh yeah. Yep. I like these Sun Devils. They like to get running. Even though they're a running team, they like to move the ball fast. So might be a precursor on what we like in that second round game.
yeah, but yeah, I think that's probably it for me for last week. Where to?
Just wrapping up action. 33-16. 67%. 67.3 to be exact. 1-0 last week. It was Xander and Chalamet. Chalamet. The two Bobcats on the biggest media outlets, Wagers on Campus and College Game Day, uh,
Yeah.
calling the outright Ohio upset. What a great way to end the season with plus money. Cannot wait to roll this into Maction college basketball. That's about the only thing I know in college basketball, but there's a lot of those games, so I'm looking forward to it. And man, we're going to need to find a way to parlay that into next season. I might just be a Mac only guy.
Yeah, man. I mean, you've done it 2 years in a row where you're at like 60% or higher, and I think that's selling you short. This year, 67. Last year, I think you were like 65. So yeah, it's crazy. Good for
And
you.
nothing's over minus 150. This is all you can bet it comfortably. Just one unit. You don't need to parlay it with anything.
Yeah, as the host of this podcast, who's on every single episode, I can attest to that. They're all just normal plays, minus 110, minus 115. That's really what you're looking at. So
Yep. Yep. A lot of craziness going on in the transfer portal. Before we get into
mm.
who's transferring, we had a heated debate, but we all seem to be pretty aligned on it. What are your thoughts? Any ideas of like how we can fix this? I'm a little more liberal on this than I think most people, but what's going through your mind when you see all these names hit the portal?
um, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is if a guy commits to a school, do they need to stay there for a minimum of 2 years?
Yeah,
You think so?
I think they're definitely going to need to start thinking about having like some time periods. Um, I think the easiest way to do it is just like because they always bring in the argument of, well, coaches can leave whenever they want, and it's like great, open up a special transfer portal period for that specific team. It's like if the coach leaves because the window closes, and so if after the coach waits to leave after bowl season, I think there's a special window to open up. Boom, they can leave. If not, they should be committed to that school and that scholarship, um, and only get like one transfer opportunity.
Yeah. The whole one transfer opportunity thing is super interesting, and I'm not entirely against it. God, man, yeah, it's just kind of nutty.
I saw a former player tweet it out. Couldn't have said it any better myself. It's like you got dudes hitting the transfer portal with no game tape. It's like no one
Mhm.
wants to put in the work anymore. They just think they're going to jump to automatic playing time. That's going to automatically better themselves. It's like you got to compete. Tom Brady says it the best. You got to compete. Doesn't matter if someone's ranked higher than you. You, at the end of the day, it's results on the field, and you compete every day in practice. You can beat that person out. But if you just pack your bags and leave every time you're behind someone. It's like those years are going to run out faster than you think, and boom, there goes your NFL career.
Yeah, it's really weird, man, because some guys are going to compete and have the right mindset, and they just won't be good enough or won't be liked enough to see the field. So what about those guys? What about the guys that do work hard and do compete and just for whatever rhyme or reason can't get on the field for Utah or whoever, and then they miss their opportunity to transfer and really play. So it's like a double-edged sword, because I hear what you're saying, because one bucket is obviously going to be entitled, like you said, get their money, be entitled, just want to play and not really work all that hard. But then you probably have another group who actually is the opposite and does care, but they also want to play. So it's hard, but it's the
Yeah,
truth.
and it's the final thought of what confused me the most of how quickly this hit is like all the college players, they should just get paid the same. They should just get a flat rate for playing. They can't take jobs and go to school. It's like I've always been in favor of that. But I always thought the name, image, likeness was they wouldn't get into trouble for now selling their name and doing autographs and like profiting off their jersey sales. I thought that's how you lure in bigger talent. This whole like contracts and money up front, that's what really rubs me the wrong way. And I don't like that. I thought name, image, likeness was just giving the power back to the players.
I hear you. As far as the money goes, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way. I would like to see some sort of system be implemented where you get paid on your production of X year. So if Cam Ward, he doesn't get $3 million when he transfers to Miami, but then after the season that he just put on tape or on the field, yeah, he gets the entire bag, and you get paid based on your performance.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So there's definitely some. I'm more concerned about that getting tweaked more than a couple extra crybaby SEC teams getting in the playoff. Like they are already evaluating 14-team playoff for next year. So
Whoa,
no commitment.
jeez, man.
Yeah. Yep. But a couple other people that hit the portal real quickly. We talked about a lot on last week's episode. Luke Kromenhoek, the Florida State guy, very highly recruited, projected to Georgia. Malik Murphy again, 9-3 at Duke. It's like, come on, buddies. I mean, you're 2 wins away from being in contention in the ACC. Great university. That's tough to see. Darian Mensah, Tulane, huge arm. Already looking at Duke, surprisingly.
Hmm.
Jackson Arnold was a big name that hit the portal last week. Um, Actually has some ties to Florida State. And what was the other one I saw? One of those other Florida teams. One that stuck out that's a name. Two, Nick Anderson, Oklahoma, stud freshman wide receiver, got hurt towards the end of the year. He'll be a big name moving. And then Eric Rivers, maybe don't know this name, FIU wide receiver, just a big dude, just really, really talented, will be a big promotion. So I understand when those guys transfer out to get, a little bit more highlighted on the main stage. Quentin Joyner from USC, he played with Caleb Williams. He was a freshman. A little bit of a disappointing season this year, but a freak talent. That'll be a big name in the portal for running back. Uh, yeah, and that's really some of the bigger names that you'd notice.
Interesting. I saw one of the 5-star freshman wide receivers for Alabama is transferring, not Ryan Williams,
Yep,
but the other guy.
Caleb Oden. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ryan Williams transferring would be just. We already said it in their group chat. Would be so funny. Just got a tattoo of the Alabama A on his leg. Just hits the portal.
Yeah, sure. Legacy, I guess. Um, 1 year, baby.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Beat Georgia. Um, all right. Well, moving on from the crazy transfer world to the current college football playoff, as Xander and I are looking at the bracket right in front of us. We got Number 12, Clemson taking on number 5, Texas. We got number 6, Penn State taking on number 11, SMU. Notre Dame hosts Indiana in the 7-10 matchup, and then Ohio State hosts Tennessee in the 8-9 matchup. Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State are the 4 teams that have the bye. So we are officially set with the bracket. No more speculation. We know exactly who is playing and who will be competing for a national championship. Thoughts?
Before we talk about the teams that did make it, let's shed light on the one team with the loudest fan base that didn't make it. And it just seems like all the noise, it seems like a parody. Like it didn't even seem like a bunch of parody AI bots. Because the entire speculation in Nick Saban started this all was, well, then what's the point of us scheduling a non-conference hard opponent? It's like you guys didn't. You didn't schedule a hard non-conference opponent, and you played Mercer in Week 12. So you can't lose to Vanderbilt. You can't lose to Oklahoma. It's just really annoying in the Twitter sphere, seeing a ton of lack of accountability from those schools that hopefully next year learn their lesson and we'll start, buckling in for every single game.
Yeah, for sure. But can you give me any crumb of context as to why Saban would say something like that? Because I don't think he's, I don't think he's oblivious to the fact that Bama's 3 losses came in the SEC. So what does he mean by that?
I don't know. He was just very. I think he was just uh, losing a little bit of his professionalism to a little bit of bias creeping through, being less than a year removed. Personally, I really like everything he brings to the table, and I like Saban a lot.
So do I. Yeah.
So I just think it was a moment of, just he's going to stand up for Alabama no matter what. But I think the right 12 teams are in. That by the letter of the law, top 5 qualify. Obviously, I don't believe Clemson is a playoff team,
Mm-hmm.
but they got in by playing their way in, and you can't argue that. So outside of that, it's just sometimes you just need a hard lesson in reality, and you just can't expect to be given everything like Alabama was about to be given that 12th seed for a very underwhelming regular season.
Well, they got lucky to get in the college football playoff last year, if we're being honest.
That's true.
Um,
Maybe that's a little
I
karma
mean,
for kicking out the 12-0 Florida State.
yeah. I mean, debate, is always fun, but no disagreement from me here on your point about Bama. They lost 3 games, 2 of them to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. They had their chance late in the season, going to Oklahoma as a 2-touchdown favorite, mind you, and they lost 24-3. Period. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it. You're out.
yeah, yep, yep. And my other thing is we got to have the power ratings because strength of schedule. You may run that by your average college football watcher, but no offense to Phil, but when you have Missouri still ranked at 23 and you're just cramming in these SEC teams at the back and you're saying, oh, look at all these top 25 victories, when it's like these teams aren't top 25 teams and that's like some arbitrary number. Well, why don't we put top 30 teams? Why does it cut off at top 25? Like, how is the
Right.
23rd team so much better than the 28th team? Like, it's not. So this argument that strength of schedule is completely bloated by the AP, and I would like, a Ken Palm like college basketball halves, or like a, what is it? RPI is dead, but like FPI, is that what college basketball uses? Like
Ken
power
Palm.
index. Yeah, Ken Palm. Yeah, I mean that's, and I know Alabama would still be ranked high, but it's like let's kind of weed through it a little bit more because Boise would also be up there high, even though people are giving them no credit. Is what my point is.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess my question to you, my first question to you is moving forward next year and beyond, if someone gave you the power and it was up to you, would you keep the format from the fact that like Arizona State makes the playoff and Boise State makes the playoff. That's not what we're talking about. All the teams are the same, but the power ranking of the teams and the teams who get the bye is based on the final AP ranking. Do you like that or not like that?
I'm a big fan of the college football playoff committee deciding the top 4 buys.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you won a conference, I think your reward should be automatic host. So that should be the tweak. It shouldn't be an automatic buy. It should be you get to host a game. And I know you're saying, well, there's 5. What if all 5 of them are out of the top 4? Then we've got bigger problems to talk about.
Yeah,
That
that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So, and the only other tweak I'd add, because I haven't seen anyone talk about this besides me firing this out to the Twitter sphere. I'm an Ohio State fan. After this game, it's in Columbus. I've got to go to Tempe. I've got to go to possibly uh, California 2 weeks after that. And then 2 weeks after that, New Orleans. Like, how is that plausible to a fan base to ask them to travel all across the country 3 different times within a 4 week period? I think the second round game should also be home. I mean, you're going to get the same amount of revenue. You're going to draw in a raucous environment. It's going to be better for TV. It's going to be an advantage to the teams that got to buy that should be given an advantage. And I think those are the only 2 tweaks. Otherwise, I like it. I like the number 12. I think this is a good looking setup. Aesthetically, it's pleasing.
Yeah, I would like to see that as well, as far as the teams who get the bye get to host a game after the bye, as opposed to being on a neutral field. I agree with you there. I don't necessarily need to see the teams who win the conference host a game. What now if they fall is the sixth ranked team? Good for them. Sure, they host the 11, but I don't need to see that. But I do agree with you. I would like to see the power rankings 1 through 4 chosen by the College Football Selection Committee this year. I mean, just spitballing, I think we would have seen 1 Oregon, of course, 2 Georgia, sure, 3. Do you think it would have been Ohio State, Notre
No, I
Dame?
think it would have been Notre Dame. And then
Yeah,
Texas 4, Ohio
yeah,
State 5, and Penn State 6.
right.
So,
So, so I think that's an easy tweak and one that actually makes a lot of sense. So I would be down to see that. Now, the last point I want to make is you've probably heard people complaining about Oregon, for example, having to play the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee, whereas, Penn State, if they beat SMU, they get to go play Boise. What would you rather play Boise in the second? If you're Oregon, would you rather play? You get what I'm saying, right?
yeah, yes,
It's
yes,
just
yes.
it's an easier path. I I just don't I don't think it'll ever happen, dude, but I just want to see them implement where you ask Oregon, who do you want to play in the second round? And you start from the top and they get to pick who they want to play. Can you imagine how
Well,
much
that would
headlines that
basically,
would cause?
yeah, that'd basically be like a reseeding. They'd just pick like the lowest seed probably most of the time. So you'd be in favor of reseeding every round?
I would be in favor of reseeding every round if we're not going to go to who do you want to play the who do you want to play element of it, because I think it would just spark so much like anger and hatred, like, oh, you want to play us, like you don't think we're shit. Like I think it would be great for
Yeah.
sports.
Well, and I think with our tweak of Power 4 getting buys, there's not going to be an easy path for 8, 9, or the hardest path isn't going to be number 1. It's going to be ranked like every other tournament style that we see, is that the 1 plays the 8, 9, and those are like 8, 9 caliber teams. They're good, possibly not great. 5 will play the 4, like just like we see in March Madness. So I think they're leaning towards that tweak, and this would be like an outlier of a season, I would like to think.
Sure, that's it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And as for the Oregon having to play the winner of that, it's also like probably going to have to play them at some point. So the other argument could be the national championship will be a blowout game. It's like you got to play a hard team early or late. You're going to play a hard team. Like you're not going to. So as much as I dislike Dan Lanning, he has been pretty adamant in all his interviews saying, at the end of the day, we got to play what's on the field in front of us, and like
Yeah.
all this lost talk, like we just go out there and just win the game, and that shuts up every other detractor.
Yeah. Got to appreciate the mindset.
Yep. The only one tweak I'd make to this bracket, I like all the teams that are in. They missed a big one. Could have easily done it. SMU and Texas. Big in-state rivalry from the Big Eight. It could have easily been 5-12. And then, Penn State, Clemson. People would be a little less up in arms about Penn State having a quote-unquote easy route, having to beat Clemson, who's been there. I just think that would have been, for viewing pleasure, a much better matchup.
Yeah. No qualms. It's going to be a lot of orange in that Texas Clemson game.
Yeah, I think that's not what we're talking about today, but spoiler alert, I think that's going to be a blowout, folks. My one blowout. What do you say we talk about some of the bowls that came out? Because we got a full list of bowls as well.
Yeah, sure. Take it away.
Is there any that caught your eye when you look at the entire slate of 30 some bowls that we had?
Yeah. Not talking about the playoff games here. I thought Pitt Toledo was interesting just from a U standpoint.
Yeah.
And the start Pitt had to the season, only to fall from grace and be playing Toledo in the day after Christmas at both 7 and 5. Georgia Tech Vanderbilt. I was very curious to see who Vanderbilt would play. That seems to be a good opponent for both squads. I feel like scrappy teams who had good years. Some signature wins for both schools. Georgia Tech beat Miami. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. That game's in Birmingham, so pretty reasonable commute for both schools. So that one was interesting. Let's see what else stood out. Iowa State, Miami on Saturday the 28th on paper is a pretty good game. This one really actually stood out to me, Burns. BYU taking on Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. Man, I'm just not used to seeing two Big 12 teams from the same conference play each other in a bowl game. I had to do a double take on that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that was a little weird, but since I didn't play in the season, I got no qualms with it. A game that you skipped over, huge. This should be the Wagers on Campus Bowl. Two teams that got so much love from this podcast all season are playing each other.
Yeah.
It should be an absolute shootout. You know what game I'm talking about?
Iowa, Mizzou.
Yuck. Yeah. Washington State, Syracuse, DirecTV Holiday Bowl.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No kidding. That is the Wagers on Campus Bowl.
Mateer versus McCord. In a dome. Those boys are going to be tossing it.
Yeah. That total is way too low.
Yeah, I was very pumped to see those two match up. How about the are we sure this isn't a college basketball typo? UConn versus North Carolina in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl.
That's a weird one. That's a really weird one.
That's a very weird one. Yeah, and then obviously Michigan getting a boost. Michigan, Alabama is going to be interesting. A lot of players have transferred out in Bama. Michigan is still complete ass on offense. I mean, I don't know how this isn't a blowout for Bama, but we'll see.
Sure. Don't disagree with you there. South Carolina, Illinois. That's a cool one. Yeah, man. My biggest takeaway was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but my biggest takeaway was the Colorado BYU one. I thought that one was I was like, wow. two conference teams playing in a bowl. Just don't remember ever seeing that. And
Yep,
Dion
I
said,
agree.
and
So
Dion said that them boys aren't transferring. That's what he said.
and they're going to play.
Hmm.
Well, so I got a question for you as well because I saw this. This is interesting. So Barstool lost the naming, or they just gave up the naming rights. So it is now the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl.
Okay.
And so I had a question of what can make bowl season great. Because obviously they have to open the transfer portal because of school. Like these kids got to be transferred and enrolling in classes at their new school. So it sucks for bowl season. But Snoop Dogg partnered with Dr. Dre. They're working with the brands that are sponsoring the Arizona Bowl to compensate the student athletes who play in the Arizona Bowl. I thought this was a great idea. I thought it will add to the competition. Why not get a little cash for winning? And I think that's always the top priority of, or I guess top idea when it comes to what can we incentivize with. But is this our number one way to better the bowl season?
Yeah, I uh, I think as it currently stands, the answer is yes. Because I don't think a lot of kids care about the legacy. I don't think a lot of kids care about winning the bowl game. Um, so I would say yes. How it's presently set up, for sure. Um, as I said to you last year, and seemingly this isn't a solution because it had to have been thought of many times, is the simple solution of opening up the transfer portal after bowl season, and therefore your guys are playing in the freaking games. And if you're saying, well, what about classes? What about the semester starting? You know, find a workaround. Find a workaround for the few athletes. Most college kids or students are not athletes, so just find a freaking workaround for them, and move it back. That would seemingly solve everything. Can't transfer until after bowl season. Period. All right, perfect.
Why? I had the idea of why can't they just like finish out the spring semester online at the previous school, transfer all the credits to the new school once the spring semester is over, do your transferring after bowl season like you're talking about. It's like just do all your classes online from your new school. How hard is that? Online classes are so accessible these days.
Yeah, there's another solution. Um, but if they're going to keep if they're going to keep the format where once the regular season ends, you can pretty much transfer immediately. Yeah, you're not going to these bowl games are going to continue to be watered down. It's just the reality. There's not enough structure to keep all of these student athletes and teams in place. There's way too much independence and kind of the wild west right now of the transfer portal and all of this stuff going on.
What if they're able to transfer in and play in the bowl game right away?
Hmm. So like a kid transfers from Oregon State to Alabama, and then he can play for Alabama against Michigan.
I guess non-playoff, like this would have to be bowl specific. Like could not be a playoff team.
Right, right. But in
Yeah.
that example, it would qualify.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, it would definitely add an element to things. Sure, why not? Like you know, as long as it's public information and it's known.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. We're working through it.
Right.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm glad Snoop did that. Hopefully he gets a little spark into bowl season because I know there's nothing we love more than just a nice, Mac versus CUSA game at 11 a.m. on a Monday when we're at home for Christmas. Just have like Buffalo versus, Louisiana Lafayette running away with us.
Yeah, it just makes you feel some sort of comfortable. At least
It
for me,
really
it
does.
does.
So should we talk
Well,
about a couple of these boys? Because I don't remember this, but usually Army Navy standalone, but we have a game with Army Navy on Saturday.
yeah, I don't ever recall that either. I think this is a brand new thing. So yeah, we can get into it.
I think it's got to be because there's two buys now. So the season was extended 1 week.
Sure. Yep.
Just
Probably.
talking out loud, that makes sense. Never. Uh, yeah. So South Alabama versus Western Michigan in the Salute to Veterans Bowl. So actually an appropriate game on Army Navy weekend in
Yep.
Montgomery, Alabama. And I've been to this bowl when it was the Camellia Bowl. Toledo versus App State. App State won on a walk-off field goal. But
Oh.
those boys travel well. That was a very surprising output by App State getting to
Hmm.
Montgomery, Alabama. But that kickoff's at 8 p.m. Currently, I think Western Michigan, I just saw them plus 7.5, and over under 57.5. Did you get a chance to peek at this game at all?
Um, a little bit. Didn't Western Michigan open as like a 10-point dog, if I recall correctly? I thought it opened at like 10. Um,
Yeah,
South Alabama, obviously, I'm aware of them and some of the explosiveness they showed on offense throughout the season. I remember when they played, I think it was Ohio. You were on the over in that game, which it did not go over. That was early in the season. And then I remembered when they played LSU a little bit later on in the season, and a lot of people were back in South Alabama to cover, and they did not. I know they have a lefty quarterback on their
Gio
team.
Lopez.
Yes, Gio Lopez. I'm assuming that he's playing in this game. No
Uh,
reason to believe otherwise.
as of 2 hours ago, he's not even thinking about transferring. It seems that he's staying South Alabama.
Interesting. Um,
Speedy little lefty quarterback, like you said. That's a big get for them in that program.
yeah, for sure. He could definitely go somewhere a little bit better. And then as far as Western Michigan goes, I defer to you in your MAC knowledge.
Yeah, listen, I think we can kind of shift some of their uh, point the point deductions due to some weather and action, some heavy wind blusters, and listen, this team's defense is terrible. 57.5 is nothing with Gio Lopez playing. Um, earlier in the season when they played at Ohio, yeah, I completely underestimated how good Ohio's defense was, how physical they were, and that score still got to 47. Western Michigan healthy, still have some good players that can score. So I'm all over this over 57.5. I think we're both teams are into the 30s. I think I would lean South Alabama to cover, but I like both teams in the 30s over easy.
Interesting. Yeah. This is when the line was back at 10, but I saw a guy in Wager Talk. He had his graphs and his charts, and he had data supporting a Western Michigan play plus the points. So, if just whoever's listening, I did see that on Wager Talk back in Western Michigan. But like I said, I think it was 10 when they were talking about it, and then now it's down to 7.5. So, yeah, cool to have another ball game on this weekend.
For sure. Hopefully, we just don't have any wild tornadoes circling Nashville, so the news doesn't commandeer the Army Navy game this year like it did last year.
Yeah, yeah. We couldn't watch the game for an extended period of time because we kept getting interrupted with weather alerts. So I hope not either, man. It sucked.
So you have a play in this game?
No.
No. So I'm the only one that's going to be betting every single bowl game this year.
I'm sure there's other degenerates across the country who will, but on this podcast, yes.
Thought I could talk you into it.
I don't mind your overplay. You sound pretty convicted in that, so I
Yeah,
might tell you.
I think so. What about the next game? What else we got?
Looks like we got Memphis taking on West Virginia, which appears to be Tuesday, the 17th. Showing here, this game is the Frisco Bowl in Frisco, Texas. Two teams not from Texas squaring off. And let's see what the current odds are. I'm trying to find them. Having a hard time finding them. You got it down at 2.5 in favor of Memphis, over under 56.5. 8 p.m. ESPN.
Yep. Yeah, I typed that up a couple days ago, so obviously there could be some line movement. Looks like it's up to 4. Wow. Obviously, a lot of rumors swirling for the West Virginia job. The biggest rumor that would just be a next season would be a season of redemption. Scott Frost going back to UCF. We didn't talk about that out the gate, but Jacksonville State coach announced coach of the year of that conference. Big rumors he's going to go to West Virginia. Do you know who that is, Mayor?
Mm-mm.
West Virginia knows him well. Rich Rodriguez.
Oh, the
Yeah,
return.
the return of Rich Rod.
Okay.
So, I don't know if that does anything for the current team, but they are head coachless. And Memphis is obviously going to want to run the ball. It's their bread and butter, but West Virginia has one of the worst pass defenses in the country. And we're high on the Memphis quarterback. It was a bit of a down season uh,
Seth Hennigan.
for, yeah, Hennigan, but the dude can still sling the rock around the yard. I think the pros and the sharps are moving this line in the right way. I take Memphis up to 5.5, and that'll be my first favorite play in bowl season. Always get a little nervous laying points in bowl season.
Yeah, sure. I would tend to agree with you. When you look at Memphis and the way that they closed out their season, they're currently ranked for whatever that's worth, but they finished the season 10-2. They finished the year on a 3-game winning streak, squeaked out a win against Rice, but then their next 2 wins were very convincing, 53-18 over UAB, and then beating Tulane. Memphis was a pretty hefty underdog in that game against Tulane. I want to say 13 points or something crazy like that. And they beat Tulane 34-24, beat them soundly. So Memphis playing their best ball of the year. They ran for 236 yards on the ground in that game against Tulane, in addition to throwing for another 218. They're just playing good complementary football at the moment, and let's see if they can sustain that. But yeah, man, I was on every time I bet West Virginia this year, I was on the wrong side. They were just one of those teams for me. So yeah, I would lean Memphis here as well, but of course there's a caveat that you want to make sure who's in, who's out. Make sure you read game previews before you're betting on any of these games, because you just want to have some sort of semblance of who's playing. So
Yep, for sure. And when I first saw this bowl, I always thought it was thought this was the Steak and Shake Bowl because they have Fire Frisco Melt. Frisco Melt is best thing in top tier fast food order.
yeah,
But
yeah, it is. Patty melts are just underrated in general.
yep, I agree. You're preaching to the choir here, brother. It's my Waffle
Right.
House go-to order.
Didn't even know they had him.
I can show you the world.
What?
It's Aladdin. Just like I can show you a whole new world. Frisco Melts
Oh,
at Waffle House.
that's great. That is great. Never change. That's what Nikki Walsh wrote in my sixth grade yearbook with a heart. Never change.
Took that to heart.
Yeah, she was hot.
Well, you're just a sixth grader still to today, is what I was saying.
Just a sucker for Nickies. What can I say?
Oh, big time. Nice bring back there. What's the next
Right.
fucking game, dude?
We got Western Kentucky taking on JMU. This is on Wednesday the 18th, 4:30 p.m. ESPN Boca Raton Bowl in Florida. The line is 9.5 in JMU's favor. Pretty big spread there. And the over/under 52.5.
Yeah, we just talked about getting uncomfy, but Western Michigan. Western Kentucky hasn't been two Westerns on the first week. What is this?
Yep.
Wyatt Earp? Call it the Wild Earp episode. Couple Westerns. We're just being silly today, cracking it up. They haven't been able to score for shit, and this is a team that is heavily reliant on throwing the ball, so that's not a great sign. Put up 12 in the conference championship. They won with 19 the week before that, and then 21-7 previous two games before that. Now, on top of not scoring, TJ Finley and Veldkamp are transferring out quarterbacks. That's not ideal. And James Madison, no real big rumblings on the transfer front. So I just said I feel scared laying the points. James Madison is too physical, too good of a team. Uh, I'll try and get it in now. 9.5, 8.5. You can still get somewhere, but I don't want to take it above 10. Might look for a JMU team total over if we get there. But also keep an eye out since we're a week out from this game. Down in Boca, it can get a little windy. Get a little windy on that coast. So might be looking for an under.
Yeah. Yeah. Good breakdown. Nothing else to add. And then later on that day at 8 p.m. on ESPN, little ESPN doubleheader of college football action. We got Cal taking on UNLV. This is the LA Bowl in Los Angeles. Cal is a 1.5 point favorite. The over-under is 50.5. Yeah, I mean, on paper, just in terms of tight margins, this is an interesting game. Um, Cal showed some flashes this season. Should have beat Miami, among other games, and they also lost to Florida State outright. They barely squeaked by Stanford in the rivalry game. They had a couple of other pretty brutal showings throughout the year. And then UNLV, of course, playing Boise State for a chance to possibly make the college football playoff. And they obviously fell short. So I don't love the idea of backing a team who had a chance to really do something special and then they lose, and now you're playing Cal. I think you're going to find a decent bit about the team's mental toughness and mental character, which I think they proved throughout the season fairly well, especially with Sluka, their quarterback, basically just kind of walking out on them mid-season. Seems like they responded to that pretty well as a team. So I think they are a pretty mentally tough team. So overall, if I'm answering the question, who do I think is better? I do think it's UNLV. But I'm curious to know, what the transfer scene looks like on both sides.
Yeah, unfortunately, Cal's quarterback, that was kind of the straw that stirred the drink, Mendoza, hit the portal. So that's going to be a big hit to their offensive performance. But they kind of laid an egg against an SMU team in their final game, which is tough. And so did UNLV, though, in the conference championship. They just laid an egg going. But luckily for them, they're coming back to the nice sunny dome in Inglewood. So I expect their offense to be right back at it. Cal has been, like you were saying, just wishy-washy up and down. Looked like they have a good defense, and then all of a sudden they would just get in shootouts. I would lean towards UNLV in this situation. Let's take a dog. As long as Haj Malik is good to go, he's not transferring out. So as long as he's playing, uh, yeah. Cal also lost their pretty highly touted wide receiver, Isaiah Hunter. So not a good scene for the offense. And then as for UNLV, we just liked everything they had. They had a Boise State problem.
They had a Boise State problem. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. I mean, I agree. I'm just, I guess my only concern would be UNLV's mental fortitude and just, want to play in this game and play well and finish the season out strong with a win after that Boise State game. If the answer
I
is
think they,
yes,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was, yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, I think also they're deciding to stay in the Mountain West. Like this is a former Pac-12 team. Like it's always good for those Mountain West schools to get a W over the Pac-12. And I know they're an ACC team, but there's a little bit of a West Coast rivalry over there. So
I like it.
I like it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and that's all we got until next week. So just those four games, um, and then we will be talking about a lot more the following week. But we'll be able to cover that Thursday game and that entire weekend full of games. But until then, we've got one more game to cover, and it's one of my favorites of the entire year. And that's tough to say. This reminds me of an NFL game. You get pumped about no points.
Yeah, Landover, Maryland, 2 p.m. on CBS. It's Navy at Army. Um, you're looking at the point spread in this game. We got Army as a 6.5 point favorite. The over under is 39. Um, you got Navy at 8-3, Army at 11-1, and conference champions after beating Tulane 35-14 last Friday night. Um, what are you thinking? I'll defer to you. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna have to go back to the good old reliable. We try to bring the stat up every single time Service Academies play, and I know this number is high. You know what's crazy? I was just looking at last year's game, and obviously we hit on the last play of the game being a safety. That
Yeah.
final score was 20. It was 17-11, and that over hit because the over was 27 and a half.
Okay. Wow.
That is so insane.
Yeah.
But and there was 18 total points scored in the fourth quarter. So not only that, it was just yeah. But anyway, Service Academy's under since 2002 hit over 82%. I'll do you one better. The Army Navy game, Army Navy specifically. So we're taking out Air Force playing Navy and Army. Last 17 matchups, 15, 1, and 1 on the under. I think we saw a decent two-lane defense. Army didn't really explode that much, and Navy's very familiar. Both teams can occasionally throw the ball, but I think they'll be ready to defend that. 39 and a half is a gift. Please give me that under. This is going to be 17 to 16.
I could see it. Yeah. It's very. I can't remember a better Navy versus Army matchup in my entire life than this year.
That's true. I agree. Like yeah, when Navy's been like really good name wise with like Keenan Reynolds and like some guys that have been able to, the only like Army NFL players I can think of are like Villanueva, the fucking freak ginormous offensive tackle for the Steelers. Um,
Yes. Yep.
but like the skill players have always been like Navy, and yeah, it's been tilted like you're saying. But both teams are good at the same time. I think Army's just more. I like Bryson Daly so much at quarterback. Just trust him more.
What's the deal with Blake Horvath? Is he playing?
I would think so. Have you seen news? Not.
Well, he sat out he got hurt in the Tulane game, the game that they lost 35-0, and then when they played ECU the following week, it was the backup who played.
Okay. Maybe they were just out for the season. No more hopes of a conference championship. They just wanted to be safe.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to look that up. But
Oh, I
anyway, just
gotcha.
just throwing it out there.
Yeah, nothing updated, so he should be playing.
Should be good to go.
Yep.
All right.
So what's your play in that game? Gotta have a play for this game.
Um, Army -6.5,
Okay.
and uh, in the under.
Army -6.5 and the under.
Yeah,
Wow. So you got it like 20 to 6.
yeah, really playing with that line there. Yeah, 20, 24, 24-14 Army.
Jeez. Really snugging up close to it.
Right.
Ooh, extra sweaty on both sides. I like
Yeah.
it. I like it a lot. Obviously, the bad man teaser can't hurt us this week. We will not be putting a teaser together across
Thank
5
God.
days. And yeah, really, we're not going to have any locks. What could go wrong parlay? Would just be me parlaying all 5 of my picks. I just have one pick per game. So pretty easy. You have anything else you wanted to talk about before we talk about just recapping the plays we just gave out?
No, no, it's definitely my lightest college football week of the year since week 0, when there was only 4 games. So yeah, just getting ready for all the bowl games and obviously the playoff games.
Well, as a bonus, since we have a little bit of time, did you want to give out a play for a potential Super Bowl matchup? Detroit Lions hosting the Buffalo Bills -1.
Ooh, didn't think you were going that direction. Um, well, the Lions don't pick against them right now. So I will go with Detroit. I'll I'll, I'll go with the Lions.
I was at the Bills bar last week and supporting my friends that run the Bills Club. And I looked at them all and I said, this ain't getting fixed in 7 days. I'm going to put an alt total over in the 60s. And I think it's going to be like the infamous Rams Chiefs game. It's going to be the same exact scores like we just saw with the Rams Bills last week. I think both teams get in the 30s easily.
Yeah,
It's a shootout. It's a shootout
yeah,
in Detroit.
yeah. I yeah, I agree. I like the over, which is what 55.5 or something like that.
Yep. Let's get it up to 68.5. Let's have some fun.
Is that it?
That's it. What cards? So your only plays were Army Navy?
I don't even know if I have an official play in that game. I'll let you know. You can tweet it out.
Okay. So just a recap of my plays on Saturday. Army Navy first, that under 39.5. And then at night game, South Alabama, Western Michigan over 57.5. So a taste of both worlds on the same day. Then Tuesday, we got Memphis -4. Wednesday, JMU -8. And then UNLV money line. Don't need the points. And that's all, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Love you.